Welcome to Sex, Love and Science with Lauren Muratore, clinical psychosexual therapist and relationship expert. This podcast explores sexuality, relationships, and the many facets in between, aiming to normalize sexual conversations, issues that we all face. Let's take the taboo out of sexuality and open up the conversations for a better sexual existence. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Welcome to today's episode. I'll be talking about performance anxiety. Performance anxiety affects both genders, and it really impacts the sexual experience that people have, especially when it comes to penis owners, as a lot of penis owners will get into a performative mode and find that their penises aren't working as they hoped. So the ruminating begins. They stay in a cycle of anticipating a poor performance and a penis not cooperating. Therefore, sex becomes a little bit anxious and scary. So let's unpack performance anxiety. Sex isn't a performance, first and foremost. It's not. When you can look at sex as a space to be creative, be playful, be connecting, be sensual, serious. Look, put any adjective in there, but not performative. I think porn has a lot to ask for when it comes to performances. Nobody's judging. Well, look, sex isn't in the Olympics, and I don't think it's ever going to be. So why on earth are we all worried about our performance? Our bodies aren't always going to act exactly the same way in every scenario, nor should they, especially when it comes to sex, because sometimes you're going to like something and sometimes you're not. So the more you keep thinking and ruminating about who you are sexually and what you're about to do is putting a giant spotlight on your genitals. Now that spotlight is going to be a bit confronting. Why on earth do you expect your genitals to work perfectly with a spotlight on them? That's a pretty daunting task that not many people can, I guess, really relate to and overcome. So let's take the spotlight off the genitals. This brings me to the next point is bringing it back to the body. So if we're in our heads worried about what we're about to do to another human, or, oh, what if they touch me a particular way? Is my body going to respond the way I'm hoping it to? That's a whole lot of thinking, and none of that's really sexy. So why would these unsexy thoughts help your genitals? They're probably not. So here's another key takeaway. The more unsexy thoughts you have, your genitals are not going to work. None of that's arousing thoughts. So here's another tip, is to jump back into the body. Usually the body will respond to what's feeling good. And it's going to respond to mental stimulation as well. Men report being visually aroused. So if you're back to the performance, if you are trying to be in this performative mode and worrying about what you're doing, and you're not looking at your beautiful, sexy partner, then you might not be getting that visual cue that normally turns you on. So, irrespective of gender, what turns your body on? If you know some of those things, then that's where you're going to bring your focus. If you like doing something to another person because that brings you pleasure, that's also okay. Do that because it's bringing you pleasure, not because it's performative. There's a big difference there. Now, if we looked at this, and I'm going to be speaking to penis owners right now, if you are in your head and not your body, then sometimes what will happen, which is pretty common, is the penis is going to go soft. If the penis goes soft, from the many, many men I speak to, they often stop. So they'll be with a partner, and all of a sudden, they start thinking some really unsexy things, and their penis goes soft. And they panic because it was hard just a few seconds ago. So they're panicked and now soft. Generally, the partner who was there partaking in some of the sexual activity then also will stop. And you have now two people who are in this kind of awkward situation, and everybody just stops touching each other. I have to say, this is where things usually go wrong. Things don't have to stop because a penis is not 100% erect. They really don't. Penises can enjoy pleasure at any percentage of its hardness. So the penis goes soft. A thing to trial is to start kissing again. Start touching each other. Maybe fondling your partner. Maybe letting them touch you in other areas that you really enjoy being touched that's not so penis focused. And do not stop the pleasure, right? If you're stopping the pleasure, why on earth would your penis get hard out of the blue again if you're not being touched or touching your partner? Look, it can happen, but it's very rare, especially if you have those really negative ruminating thoughts here. So keep the pleasure going. Do not panic. Normalize that it is okay for a penis to not be hard. That's okay. Guess what? It might get hard again. And so if this is a couple, the person who is playing with the penis owner, to also be able to feel comfortable in this space that it's okay to touch somebody who's not 100% hard. You can continue touching the soft penis and it might just feel good to them, and that's okay. Don't expect it to get hard. Just touch it. Just touch it for the sake of touching. If you're happy to do that, of course, and if your partner's happy to receive that, of course. So I'm not going to throw out consent. But what's wrong with going back to kissing or touching parts of the body? Don't stop doing that. So what's next? The other thing to start thinking about is your level of attraction. So often I'll hear from the partner who's with the penis owner, and they're going to start thinking, well, they don't find me attractive. I must not be good at sex or touching them or whatever I'm doing to them because they're going soft. And then I'm going to start beating myself up. I'm going to feel ugly. I'm going to feel unattractive. I'm going to feel bad in bed. Look, I don't know if it's 9 times out of 10, but it's a very high percentage that it's not you. So please start trying to get out of your head that it's you. That if your partner's having really unsexy thoughts, and if they're panicking, if they're worried about pleasing you and being a sex god, they're not going to be hard. So that's not you. That's the thoughts in their head. So being patient with these penis owners is really important, and to also not worry about your levels of attraction or desirability, because most likely it's not you. And I'm not blaming the penis owner in this instant. I'm just saying if they are in their heads and not their bodies, then it's not your level of attraction. So we've kind of discussed, right, being in your body, not your mind, not putting your genitals on a spotlight, how to keep the pleasure going and being patient, let's just debunk it right now, that a penis doesn't have to be 100% hard to have any pleasure. And that if you are the person engaging in sexual activity with the penis owner, that it's most likely not your level of attraction or what you're doing. And if there is a way that you're touching the penis owner and it's not feeling good, then everybody needs to communicate this. I like it a little bit faster, or I like it. It feels really good when you do X, Y, and Z. So promoting positive ways of how to communicate with each other in the moment is really important and valid. I'm going to kind of flip this around for a moment and talk about vulva owners who also have performance anxiety. And I do speak to a lot of these vulva owners. And similar to the penis owner counterparts is they're worried about their body performing a particular way. They're worried about being wet, tight, or pain-free because potentially maybe they've always experienced painful sex. And so vulva owners also have performance anxiety. And I think that's really worth noting. And again, as we were saying, if you're having all of these unsexy thoughts, why on earth would your body just relax into a sexual experience and get all aroused? It doesn't happen. So this conversation is for anybody to take the pressure off of ourselves that sex is a performance. I mean, think about your best sexual experience. What made it good? Who were you in that sexual experience? Were you performing? Were you giving? Were you receiving? Were you allowing? Were you taking? What were you actually doing in those moments to make it good? What I hear a lot of times is people say that some of their hottest sexual experiences is when the chemistry just felt right and both people were really in the mood. So this kind of tells me that the inhibitions have kind of come down, the walls have come down, and two people can just be. And in that space, it's freeing, it's connecting, it's pleasurable, and it's validating. It's just a great overall experience. But when we're worrying that that experience has to go perfect or go right, it's putting so much complications and really unsexiness from the start that it's really not painting a picture of that really hot experience to begin with. So these are some different things to think about, at least, when it comes to performance anxiety. So whether you identify as a male or a female, or even non-binary, let's change the notion of performance. And now for a moment of reflection. Do you want to be with a partner who performs? Most likely not. So if you find your partner going into performative mode, maybe talk to them and tell them what you really do enjoy. What do they do well that turns you on? What makes you feel good? This is a nice, positive way of talking to your partner rather than giving them this, false identity that they have to act a certain way in the bedroom. And just comforting them that what they do already feels good. And when they do certain things a particular way, your body gets aroused quite naturally anyway. So I'll leave you with that moment of reflection, and thanks for tuning in.